Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Tactical Breakdown series, the show in which we look at the players that have been linked to the Arsenal ahead of this summer window. Every single day, even though it is only March, Arsenal are getting linked, and we want to give you guys the insight and the education about those players that you may or may not have heard of too much in your footballing world. Now, today is an interesting episode because we're talking about Berardi from Sassuolo, and I've got a fantastic guest on as well to give us the insight. So let's crack on with things, but make sure that you have liked and subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell so you always get told when a new show drops, along as that join button to become a member and help out the channel. We've got some good plans for March for our Plus and Expert members. Don't you worry, you'll be getting your content very, very soon. And of course, we would like to promote what is a fantastic product, which I'll talk about that in just a second. No, it's not an advert. No, I'm not getting paid for it. It's just a little bit of a thing that I want to show you guys. So let's jump into the video and talk about Berardi with the help of our Italian man, Rich Hall, who works for Football Italia. All of his links are in the description below. So Rich, talk to me about the Italian winger.
It's no secret that Berardi's been watched by Arsenal for quite some time, but that's not a surprise. I mean, he's been watched by the likes of Juventus, Inter, Milan, so many teams over the years. At 25 years old, what about him? You know, what are his skill sets? I mean, this is a guy who's incredibly talented, but unfortunately incredibly flawed. He's got many critics in Italy, even though he's absolutely one of probably the brightest talents there's been in some time. So what of him, first of all? So the positives of Berardi are his actual technical ability and what he's able to do. A right winger, he's fantastic on the ball, he's extremely quick, very persistent, he can at times work very hard, but overall of that, what's even better about him is his finishing. In about 200 plus games for Sassuolo, he's scored around 65 goals. It's a good return for a right winger, especially when that team hasn't been dominating in Serie A. So you ask the question then, why has he been at Sassuolo all his career, and what's wrong with him? Why hasn't he moved already? The interesting thing is it's sort of threefold in some respects. First of all, he's been hit by injuries, and Sassuolo have been very good with him in that time frame to help him rehabilitate and get back on his feet. He feels like he owes him in some respects for that. So that's the first thing. And those injuries over the space of time probably have come at some unfortunate times when he's been in form and just probably made the likes of Inter, the likes of other clubs, just stand away a little bit from him because it's come at unfortunate times, maybe just before the transfer window, for instance. So that's the first thing. The second one's more complicated. In Italy, he's accused of having a lack of ambition. Now, you can take this two ways. You can look at it in a wonderful way and say, you know what, this guy enjoys playing his football at Sassuolo. He's very loyal to Sassuolo. The money isn't the biggest thing. The ambition isn't the biggest thing. And, you know, that's been part of the problem. There's been moves that have been lined up in the past, and he's simply not really pushed for it. He's not really gone for it. He's a player who... maybe he's not a great taker of risks. Maybe he's not got a great ambition. And maybe there's something to be said that he just likes to be happy, just likes to be in that environment and likes to play well in his football. Probably the biggest thing that's thrown him as well is that he's inconsistent. Now, we've seen this season, when he's on form, he's electric. We saw him against Atalanta. We've seen him against 4 or 5 times this season when you can watch him. His highlight reels, when you see him on YouTube, are amazing. But there's a lot of games when he goes missing. You look at the goals he scored this season, from running nearly the full length of the pitch, slotting home as part of a hat-trick. Incredible ability, as I said before, on the ball. Incredible finishing ability. But it just doesn't happen enough. It's that lack of ambition to push to the next level that perhaps stops him being a really great player. When you look at the likes of Lautaro Martinez at Inter, another player with incredible qualities but an incredible work rate as well, and he really pushes through, and you can see the results. Now Barcelona are after him along with many others. Berardi, for me, has got as much talent as that. I don't know, for an Arsenal point of view, is he worth the risk? Potentially yes, because I think that if Berardi did decide to move, it would be a conscious decision and he would fully commit to it. I don't think that him as the character, from what the papers say in Italy and what the media have said, I think if he Sassuolo really wanted to sell him and he was forced out of the club, I don't think you'd get the consistency out of him. However, if he moves and believes in the project, he's happy where he's living in his new area, then yeah, potentially you would have an incredible player in his hands. Like I said, 25, a long way to go yet, but a few questions for me more than answers. On the other side of that, what price could you get him for? If you could get him for something like 40 million euros, then wow. I mean, Swallow would always take the money if they could, because again, they would see it as a win-win, a good fee for a player who, whilst fantastic, is probably not conducive to their team approach. So yeah, it would be interesting. So is it worth it? Potentially, but it's certainly a gamble. So I would be surprised though, however, if he moved, because it's happened so many times in the past. Arsenal have been linked to him since as far back as 2016, as far as I can remember, probably even earlier. And he still hasn't moved. So watch this space, and if he does come across, I'll certainly be watching with incredible interest.
A huge thank you to Richard for helping us out there with his insight on Berardi. Let us know in the comments what you think about Rich's thoughts. Do you think Berardi is someone that we should be going for based on the insight that we've received there? Now, before we move on to the statistics section, I want to bring up something. I want to bring up this. This is the Modern Footballer magazine, of which Richard and myself and Drew, in fact, have featured in this quarterly at the moment, as far as I'm aware, issue. I received mine the other day, and if I turn to page 91, you can see my article about Ferran Torres. You can go read about that. You can go read about Drew's really, really interesting stuff, what Drew's been talking about Deisler and depression, which is really in-depth and insightful article, dealing in some very, very serious themes. And then we've got Rich's article. Obviously, Rich just helped us out there talking about Berardi, and you can find Rich's article talking about Inter Milan and their rise under their new ownership as well. Now, if you want to get hold of this magazine, of which I've not got paid for, we've not got paid for, it's literally just a really fantastic product that I think getting out the word from us and you guys is the best that we can do. So link is going to be in the description to that. It is now out for EU members as well, so those that are out in the EU somewhere, you can also get your hands on this great product. And unfortunately, North America, I don't believe have access it to you just yet. You may be able to find it if someone's willing to help you out on Twitter. I have no idea. It's not my thing. So, but if you don't ask, you don't get. So maybe you should have a look into that. But definitely, if you're in the UK or the EU, get hold of that. It's a really, really fantastic little magazine full of loads of insightful articles on a plethora of amazing talent. Now, let's move on to the statistics of the show, as well as a little addition to this section too, which we'll talk about in just a second. But as always, we like to focus on our trusted heat map, which you can see on the screen now. He's a right-sided winger that's a left-footed player. He likes to cut inside, and that's very, very obvious from the graphic there. Clearly wants to cut in as often as possible. Now, the biggest confliction here is that we've already got a right-sided winger with a left boot that likes to cut inside, and that probably scuppers much of any thoughts about Arsenal going in for it, unless we had any plans to put Pepe into a different position or Berardi into a different position. But they are both very heavily right wingers with left foots, as well as Nelson being a right-footed right winger. And I know that he can play on the left, but that's pretty much going to be Gab or Alba's position for the foreseeable future. So I can't really see where this fits in right now, but I still think it's important to break down the stats and see how good this guy is. 9 goals, 4 assists so far this season, 3.96 shots being taken with a 37.2% accuracy. He loves to take those shots from inside. He cuts in, he hits them with his left, and usually they are very deadly. Consistency is an issue, as we talked about with Rich, but I do like to see the scattering of shots that you can see from there, both inside and outside the box. Crosses, 1.57. As I say, he's a left-footed right winger. You're not typically seeing too many crosses being made in the game, and that's why the accuracy at 12.9 is incredibly low. Dribbles, though, much better. 5.59 being made with over a 55% accuracy, or rather success rate of those dribbles, which is much, much better. Offensive duels, 12.44 with 46.9% of those being won, is strong as well. Really like that. He makes just over 2 progressive runs, and he suffers a lot of fouls because he's a tricky dribbler, and he does like to draw those challenges. If we look at the passing statistics, 35 passes being made in each game with a 78.9% accuracy. He's an attacking player. He's dynamic. I was going to use the word vivacious then, but he is, and that does mean that he is going to lose the ball now and again. And 78.9% for a player that is in the final third a lot of the time isn't too unsurprising for a winger. Long passes 1.93 with a 47.4% accuracy. That's okay considering how far up the field he usually is. Through passes 1.73 with 38% accuracy. We've talked about crosses. Assists at 0.2. It's not amazing, but it's not horrific. XA naturally is going to be quite low then, as well as second assist. Pass into final third, 66.7% accuracy is decent. Pass into the box, I like. 56.8% accuracy for a pass into the box, and over just under 4 of those being made in each game is really, really good. receiving the ball 25 times in those matches to really be sort of the talismanic figure for Sassuolo. And the forward to backward pass ratio is positive, but it's bordering on 50-50. It's not massively in favour of a positive player, maybe more so because he likes to run up the field and then cut the ball back sometimes, but still I'd like to see that ratio a bit higher, and the accuracy of those forward passes definitely needs improvement. Finally then, moving on to the defensive statistics. 6.81 defensive duels is a high amount of duels that he's making, and he's winning 46.3% of those. The differences between him and Pepe is that he will protect the right back. He will do that job. He will go back and win those challenges. Aerial duels, surprisingly high, 1.98 with a 38.5% accuracy too. And then loose balls that he's winning. Nearly 50% of those loose ball duels he's getting to, 3.76 of those are being attempted, and just under 50%, 10% under. 39.2 going up against defenders is not too shabby. Interceptions, 4 in each game is high for a winger. Really like that stat there. Losses 10 to 4 recoveries is a little bit disappointing, but a dynamic player, a verve player, someone that wants to take players on, you're going to see him lose the ball a relatively high amount, and the low percentage in his own half is probably a small saving grace, but not too much. He does like to clear the ball once every game, and he's making 1.93 fouls, leading to some yellow and even a red card this season as well. There you go. We dropped it there. Whoa, I lost my camera completely. There you go. That is all of the statistics that you could possibly want, I hope. Or is it? Because we've added a little new section to the show called the injury record, because a couple of people on Twitter have suggested that we look at players' injury records. So here you go. Injury record wise, no real long term besides a 16-17 sideband strain in the knee, which hasn't really, recuperated. It hasn't happened again. It hasn't repeated. That's the word I want. There was a knee problem in 17-18 where he was out for 21 days and he missed 3 games. But other than that, the 24 games he missed for that quite a serious knee injury back in 2016 to 2017 is the only real thing of note. He's missed since then, quick maths, 11 games. So that's not exactly in 3 to 4 years that bad, I feel personally. So he's not injury prone yet until he joins the Arsenal, of course. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope you've enjoyed the stats and the extra information and the info about this wonderful magazine. Make sure you go and check it out and go give it a purchase. You can get it in a digital and a hard copy too. I will see you again very, very soon for tomorrow's video on Demiral, which should be quite fun. I've enjoyed this. I hope you have too. And if you have, please let me know by hitting that like button. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.